Hari Om friends, I hope you are all well. Welcome to this one-off or one-shot episode on Operation Spiderweb, which was a special operation conducted by Ukraine against Russia in the long-running Russia-Ukraine war. And this is part of my contemporary military history series, and I'll be adding more and more episodes based on different military conflicts going on around the world, which are quite contemporary. So let's hop on and see what Operation Spiderweb was about. So as you can see, this is a map of Russia and its surrounding countries. So you got Ukraine, Finland, and all of the other Scandinavian European countries. So on Sunday, 1st June 2025, the Ukrainian Secret Service, or the SBU, it launched a classic Trojan horse attack. Now, this operation is quite historical because whatever success it might have achieved, some of the claims are exaggerated, and obviously it's quite debated how many targets they actually hit. But this is quite historic because it made use of a very ancient idea which we have read in school, which was that of the Trojan horse. And they adapted this for the 21st century warfare and technology scenario. So, what they did was the SBU, or the Secret Service of Ukraine, launched an attack using over 117 drones, and they attacked five bomber bases deep inside Russia. So they were Olenya, Ivanovo, Dyagilevo, Belaya, and I believe there was a failed attack on the farthermost airbase, which was Ukrainka, and this is, I think, about 8,000 kilometers from the Ukraine border. So they hit Olenya Guba naval base, which is closest to Finland border, and I think Russia also accused Finland of mm, kind of facilitating or assisting these attacks. So we'll have a look at that in the last slide. The next base they attacked was the Ivanovo Severny air base, and I believe these were launched pretty simultaneously. And there was the Dyagilevo air base. I hope I'm pronouncing them right. I do apologize for my pronunciations. And then you had the Belaya air base, and finally, what I've highlighted in kind of yellowish amber, the failed attack on Ukrainka, which I said is almost 8,000 kilometers on that side of Russia, not the Soviet Union. So I was brought up in the 1980s, so that word Soviet Union still sticks to my tongue. And this was a special operation. It was very classic special operation, which was planned and prepared over 18 months by the Ukrainian intelligence, and this was codenamed Spider's Web, which is why it's known as Operation Spiderweb. And the final damage count is quite uncertain because initially Ukraine claimed a very inflated 41 bombers destroyed. They said a third of the Russian heavy bomber or nuclear capable bombers were wiped out. But this is quite disputed because in wartime, every side does propaganda. So no blame on the Ukrainians. But Russia, I believe, asserted that around 10 bombers were actually destroyed. But the United States kind of came up with an assessment which was neither here or there. So they said 20 bombers were hit and around 10 were destroyed. So 10 were completely destroyed, and I believe the 10 were quite seriously damaged. So this is the estimate of US officials. Again, we have no idea how correct it is, but whatever the facts on the ground of how many airplanes or bombers were destroyed or damaged, this was a very daring and audacious attack, and obviously this was pre-planned and there was a lot of propaganda done. This is quite obvious by the photographs, which are clearly posed photographs of Vasily, I believe that's his name. I might be getting it wrong, who's the head of the Ukrainian Secret Service, or the SBU. So he's looking down at these nice satellite images, high resolution images of Russian bases with these bombers parked, and they're clearly marked for destruction as targets. So obviously this is all pre-planned post propaganda, but a very high propaganda value operation in the Russia-Ukraine war. So how was this carried out? Oh, Vasil Malyuk. Sorry, that's his name. So Vasil Malyuk is his name. So as per Vasil Malyuk, and I got these images from the article in the Guardian newspaper, so I put the link there as well. So these drones were smuggled into Russia, and obviously there was a on-ground team of facilitators. Otherwise, this doesn't kind of materialize. These kind of operations don't work without local support and on-ground facilitators. Now, they were placed inside containers which were loaded into trucks. Now, these containers, as you can see in this image, had a false compartment on the top. And this compartment, in this compartment, there were rows and rows of drones, and the roofs were of a kind which could be retracted by remote control. So they could be opened by remote control. And the this allowed the drones to fly out and begin their attack as soon as the trucks were in position. So the Russian truck drivers had no idea, and I'm not sure how true this is, but there was unconfirmed news floating on Twitter that some of the drivers were assassinated after these attacks started. So the drones were the first-person view drones, the FPV technology that allows them to be kind of operated remotely. Now, it's not like the operators were somewhere in Ukraine. Possibly they were in Ukraine when the attacks were carried out to bases which were near the border. But for bases like Belaya or Ukrainka, which is quite far off, 4,000, 8,000 kilometers deep in Russia, obviously they would have to be somewhere near to control those drones. And this is an image from BBC of the damaged planes in the Belaya airfield. So you can see those white rectangles. They mark the images where these bombers have been blown by the FPVs. And most of them are, at least in the upper diagram, are Tu-95S bombers. Now, Tu-95s are quite special, and I'll discuss this because I'll go through each aeroplane variety or type of airplane which was damaged in the next set of slides. Just give me a minute. I'm not an expert on these topics, so I'll be touching them very briefly, so very kind of shallow skim. So this aircraft is an A-50U. Now an A-50U is what is known as AWACS. So it's an aerial warning system. Basically, it's a radar in the sky. And these are very sophisticated because they can detect air defense systems, they can guide missiles to their targets, they can coordinate targets for Russian fighter jets which are attacking Ukraine. So instead of a radar being based on the ground and static with limited range, you now have eyes in the sky, which can fly really close to the border, and they can look deep into Ukrainian airspace. And this has estimated value of around 350 million US dollars, so very expensive. And Ukraine claims to have destroyed, I think, at least a couple of them in this attack. Now, the next one is one aircraft which I really love. It is the Tu-95MS. Now, the Tu series is quite old, so it dates back right to the Korean War of the early 1950s. And the Tu-95MS, which is obviously a very upgraded version, this forms the backbone of the Russian strategic bomber fleet. Now, in this image, those big missiles, which you see underneath the Tu-95's belly and on the wings, they are cruise missiles. And again, the advantage with using these bombers as compared to using missiles being fired from, say, mobile launchers like trucks, or being fired from immobile stationary silos in the ground, is when a missile starts from its stationary position, whether on on a mobile launcher or a silo. It will have to go from a speed of 0 to whatever, hundreds of kilometers per hour, and obviously it burns a lot of fuel, and its range gets reduced because it uses a lot of power just getting off the ground and getting into the air. Whereas you can imagine this Tu-95 is flying at whatever speed it does, and these missiles being launched in the air. So already this bomber is traveling at hundreds of kilometers an hour, and then this missile. So the missile's range is automatically increased, and its velocity speed really goes to the roof. Plus, the same with those AWACS, the AU-50s. You can get these bombers really close to the border and then fire these cruise missiles. Which is why one of the reasons why this Tu-95 was targeted by Ukraine was these are being used by Russia to actually strike targets deep inside Ukraine. So trying getting them neutralized, or at least reducing their numbers in these attacks, effectively cripples Russian capacity to attack Ukraine. Because if you've got, say, 10 bombers, not all of them will be in service all the time. So you will have at least 3 or 4 which are down for maintenance. So you've got 6 now left which have to be rotated. And if one of them goes down, again, the number you can get into the air at any point of time goes down. So let's move on to the next one. So this is the Tu-22M3. Again, the Tu-22, it has got quite a history. Not old, not as old as the Tu-95. But still, I believe the earliest one dates to the 1970s. Obviously, it's been upgraded through time. So the M3 is the latest upgradation. And this is very valuable to Russia because this carries the KH-22 cruise missile. And Russia has used these to again strike targets inside Ukraine, and they have used, I believe, almost 300 of the missiles. And the Ukrainian Air Force spokesperson, his name is, I think, Yuri Ignat, he said that Ukrainian air defense has not been able to stop even one missile. So no wonder this was also hit. So again, it's not on how many of these were destroyed, whether a couple or 4. So that's a matter for debate. And this is Tu-160. Now the Tu-160 is the most modern and nuclear capable bomber of all of these. Ukraine did not hit this one, as far as I've read. So Tu-160 was not hit because Tu-160 is a nuclear capable bomber. So once you hit a nuclear bomber, which is part of the nuclear triad, automatically you escalate it to the next level. So Ukraine was quite careful. It hit the other types of aircraft which were used to attack inside Ukraine, but it did not hit Tu-160 because Tu-160 was stationed on one of the air bases which was hit. And the Russian fleet of Tu-160 is around 16 operational aircraft at this moment. Now we'll just discuss a bit deeper, but before we do that, let's have a look at the video of the actual attack. So I'll be just posting a few seconds of that video. So let's move on to the video. So this is the footage which was posted by the SBU on its YouTube channel, and I believe they posted on other media like Telegram, Twitter, etc. So let me play that video, and the full video runs to 4 minutes 42 seconds, and I'll link it in the description box. So this is a Tu-95MS going up in flames, and this view is the first person view, or the FP view of the drone. So this is what the drone operator sees when he's directing the drone to the target. So you can see the drone kind of stops its transmission just a few seconds before impact. That's when the explosion occurs, and you can see it hitting different parts of the aircraft. So the wing, the engines. This is a Tu-22 Tu-22M, and the drone is just flying around before impacting on either the wing or the fuselage or any other part of the aircraft. And the interesting thing is some of these aircraft have got tires on them. So I'm not sure what the function is of these tires. And I further on in the video, some of the aircraft have got sandbags on them as well. I believe it is to kind of maybe stabilize them when they're on the ground. And you can see this aerial shot from another FPV drone where a lot of aircraft are going flames. And this is the A50 AVAC, the aerial warning. Now this seems to be disused because you can see the rotodome is all rusty. This looks like a museum piece, and I'll just talk about this more in the last slide as well. So let's pause this video now. If you look at the full video at your own convenience, you will notice some interesting things. Some of the aircraft don't seem to have engines, and they've got sandbags on their wings, I believe, to keep them stable on the ground in high wind conditions. So obviously some of them are museum pieces. Couple of those A50 AVACs have on their rotodomes or the radar domes, they've got a lot of rust, which means they have not been used for some time, and they are pretty much abandoned, stripped aircraft. So the real figure of how many operational aircraft were destroyed is quite open to debate. But the bigger question is, who are the real actors behind the attack? Now, very obviously, you got the people on the ground, which are the SBU or the Secret Service of Ukraine. But an attack of this magnitude cannot be carried out without the help of bigger and more powerful actors. So the most obvious one in this case is NATO. So again, this hodgepodge of European countries led by America, and you have got a lot of these intelligence agencies. I just put two or three for example, but you can add any number of, alphabet soup acronyms over there. So you've got the CIA, you've got MI6, which is British, you've got BND, which is German, and obviously you would have French and Italian, and I don't know which other countries, probably Poland as well. So all of NATO ones. So all of these are behind this attack, and this was a message to Russia as well, that we can strike at your targets. And there's another interesting thing going on. The Anglo-Saxon world, the NATO world, so this is not a very homogeneous group. Even the Anglo-Saxon grouping, which is known as the Five Eyes. So you got US, Canada, UK, Australia, and New Zealand. So five countries, and then you got the Euro nations who have got their own grouping, and then they all cooperate as part of NATO, etc., etc. So there are different camps, different factions within this grouping as well. And it seems to be a work of a very powerful faction which wants to escalate the war. So when you carry out the war to a nuclear power like Russia, and you hit their strategic bomber bases where you got these nuclear capable bombers based, you obviously are sending a message of escalation. And they NATO and whoever is running the show, they seem to be pushing the envelope further and further. Now I've got no kind of partiality or stake in the Russia-Ukraine war, so I'm pretty neutral. I just feel a lot of sympathy for innocent people getting killed on both sides. But the Anglo-Saxon idea generally seems to be that they will fight Russia to the last Ukrainian. And I think that's what happening on the ground right now. So obviously a lot of things going behind the scenes, but again a very audacious attack, and I think definitely it will go down in the annals of military history as a very unique special operation. So that was it for this episode, and I will see you in the next episode. If you're liked, please do remember to like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Hari Om.